Sal from Senegal. We also have Nkosi Onkonjo Iweala from Nigeria, Victoria Tomega Dogbe from Togo, and Hajamafore Bangora from Guinea. Their work continues to shape institutions and decisions that affect millions of lives. In peace building and human rights, we highlight Lema Gbowe from Liberia, Bineta Diop from Senegal, Oluwatosin Unga from Nigeria, Zainab Hawa Bangura from Sierra Leone, and Isatu Sise from the Gambia. Women who have stood for justice and dignity where it was most needed. In knowledge and ideas, we recognize Professor Fatou Sarr from Senegal, Amina Mama from Nigeria, Aminata Draman Traore from Mali, and Monique Elboudu from Burkina Faso, whose work continues to question inequality and shape thinking across the continent. In culture and storytelling, we celebrate Mariam Abba from Senegal, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie from Nigeria, Angelique Kidjo from Benin, Veronique Tajo from Cote d'Ivoire, and Cecilia Evora from Cabo Verde. Voices that carries our stories to the world. And today's generation of change makers, Mo Abudu from Nigeria, Rekia Madugu from Benin, Zara Musa from Niger Republic, Cornelia Wankala Kura from Liberia, Jamila Bio Ibrahim from Nigeria, and Indai Fatou Indai from Senegal, continue to push boundaries and open new paths. Together, these women reflect the diversity and strength of West Africa. Different countries, different paths, but a shared impact. Today, we celebrate them and we recognize that their work continues through the next generation. Thank you. It has been an honor.
Thank you very much, Barrister Aisha, for that inspiring statement of celebration. Your journey is a testament to what excellence and determination can achieve. Thank you, and thank you, and thank you. At this point, I kindly invite Dr. Do Kone again. Yes, um, to share the key points of this statement of celebration in French. Thank you very much.
Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Bienvenue encore à ce panel de célébration de la journée des femmes qui ont marqué l'histoire de l'Afrique de l'Ouest et l'histoire tout entière. Nous vous remercions d'avoir pris de votre temps pour célébrer cette journée et c'est un grand plaisir pour tout un chacun. Moi, je suis Dokone. Madame Aïcha, qui vient de faire sa présentation, nous a un peu fait le parcours de toutes ces femmes-là qui ont marqué notre histoire depuis la nuit des temps jusqu'à maintenant, en commençant par celles qui ont été du côté du Libéria avec Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, qui elle aussi a marqué son temps jusqu'à maintenant. Elle a cité d'autres personnes, notamment Madame Sarr, qui normalement, je pense, devrait être sur ce panel du côté du Sénégal. Elle a cité aussi celles-là même qui ont changé aussi l'histoire ou qui ont porté la voix quand il s'agit de la musique africaine, notamment Serera du côté du Cap-Vert. Elle a cité aussi d'autres personnes du côté du Nigeria, notamment Kuti, qui elle aussi a marqué très bien son temps, et d'autres personnes, que ce soit dans la politique, que ce soit dans la musique, ou encore que ce soit dans la littérature, avec l'icône qu'on a tous bien connue du Sénégal, Mariam Abba. Donc, elle a fait le tour et elle ouvre ce panel avec ces notes que je viens de vous transmettre en quelques mots. Merci.
Thank you, Dr. Do, for this brilliant summary. Merci beaucoup, Dr. Dokone, pour ce résumé très brillant en français. Now I will continue in English by inviting an international lawyer with over 20 years of experience in human rights, international law, governance, and dispute resolution. She has trained and worked with leading institutions across Africa, Europe, and the United States, and brings deep expertise in human rights systems at regional and international levels. Today, she will address strengthening women's economic empowerment and addressing the gender gap as a foundation for leadership. As she speaks, I encourage everyone to actively listen and reflect. Please prepare two thoughtful questions and feel free to send them to me privately via inbox. I'll be collecting them and will raise a few during the question answer session. Please join me in welcoming Barrister Olwatusin Engowa to the floor. Ms. Olwatusin Engowa, over to you.
Hello, please, Ngua. We can't hear you, please.
I think, James, you have not activated the right microphone. The right one is Oluwatosin Engowa.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Oluwatosin.
she's already accepted, but
Okay.
yeah, she already accepted. I don't know, maybe she may be having an issue with the microphone because I could see that she's not muted. Well,
You can also activate her video because if she prefers to speak using her video, you can activate it, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, she's good on video. She's good. Well, we are
Okay, thanks.
unable to hear her. Maybe she
Yeah.
might be having some technical issues, I guess.
All right.
Hello, ma'am, please, can you hear us? My goodness. I think she has an issue with the microphone.
Yeah, I think yes. Let me just
She's
try.
she's not connected to audio, probably.
Yeah, she
So
had just written a message. She can hear us, so um let
yeah.
me see. Yeah.
She's not connected to the audio. She has to connect to her audio before we can hear her.
Okay, now it is my pleasure to invite a dedicated and visionary young leader whose commitment to youth empowerment and regional integration continues to inspire men across West Africa. Barrister Junaidu Abdul Qadir Haifan, interim regional chairman of the West Africa Youth Assembly, a passionate advocate for youth development. His leadership reflects resilience, purpose, and a deep commitment to building a stronger and united region. Sir, you have the floor for your welcome address. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yasin, for this invitation. I'd like to begin by recognizing the presence of Honorable Resar, Chairperson of Delegation, former President Ekopiefa, Honorable Veronica Sese, Member Australian Parliament, former President Ekopiefa, Anthony Colonia Onkala Kurwa, Minister Youth and Sport, Liberia, Barrister Olotosin Niwa, President ECOWAS Community Court of Justice, Female Forum, Honorable Jamila Bayo Ibrahim, former Minister of Development, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Honorable Yasni India Sibao, Chairperson Organizing Committee, Mr. James Apaporeku, Chairmen and Regional Executives of West African Youth Assembly here presence, former Regional Chairman, WAYA Regional Council here presence, distinguished guests, women leaders, youth advocate, development partners, and fellow champions of progress. Welcome to the West African Assembly prestigious summit by Joe Summit in commemoration of the International Day for Women's Rights. As Hilarion Rundeng Clayton once said, human rights are women's rights, and the women's rights are human rights. Let us not forget that among those rights are the right to speak freely and the right to be heard. On behalf of the West African Youth Assembly, WAYA, it is my profound honor to extend this heartfelt welcome. Today, we gather virtually across borders to celebrate the unwavering care, support, and devotion of our mothers, wives, sisters, and daughters. Their enduring strength form the bedrock of our families, communities, and nations. We solemnly affirm that their contribution deserves eternal recognition, and this summit stands as a testament to that secure commitment. We also pay glowing tribute to the distinguished women whose exemplary leadership, courage, creativity, and activism have indelibly shaped West African history, from fearless independence activists to modern innovators driving sustainable development. These icons continue to inspire generations, reminding us that true progress blooms from resilience and innovation. Dearest participants, this summit promises profound enrichment. You will gain inspirational leadership insight from renowned women trailblazers, fueling your personal and communal growth. Dive into a substantive discourse on gender equality, youth governance, and sustainable regional development, arming you with actionable knowledge for tomorrow. As young leaders, step from observers to architects through dynamic panels and collaborative forums. Together, let us propel our shared vision for a progressive West Africa, where every woman thrives and every youth leads. In closing, G.D. Anderson once said, feminism is not about making women stronger. Women are already strong. It is about changing the way the world perceives their strength. In this light, we proudly announce our gender parity project, which aims to shift from narrative from a majority of leaders to a majority. It will transform women and youth from overlooked minorities into empowered majorities at the Hill. Over the next 5 years, women will no longer merely discuss gender equality, they will produce presidents, governors, senators, and more. As Asata Shakur aptly stated, it is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chance. I leave you with this oath. As mother, you are the backbone of my life, a pillar strong through storm and strife. As sister, you are the spark of joy and light, my guide through shadows focus on in the night. As wife, you are weaving deep into my soul, a true partner that makes my secret all. As daughter, you are the blood that rules so deep, my pride eternal, promise to keep. In every rule, your grace forever shine, the heart of home through all our lives in twin. Empower nation, inspire the bold, let your banners be unfold. Honorable Chairperson, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you very much, you too, Barrister Junaidu Abdul Kadir, for your powerful and encouraging words. Your dedication to your leadership and regional progress is truly commendable. You have made this morning a brilliant welcome address. This will remain in the almanacs of history. Thank you very much. Now, I'm going to call upon Dokone again for the French summary of this brilliant and powerful testimony from our interim president. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup à Madame Yacine et à tous. C'est le président des jeunes de l'Afrique de l'Ouest qui vient de prendre la parole, Monsieur Tunaidou, qui est d'ailleurs un homme de droit, qui nous fait son introduction en commençant par cette citation d'Hillary Clinton qui dit que Women's rights are human's rights, c'est-à-dire que les droits de la femme sont les droits de l'humanité. Et cela est d'une profondeur qui peut toucher toutes les couches sociales et même tous les hommes, que ce soit hommes ou femmes. En cela, il a parcouru en saluant la présence de tous ceux-là qui nous ont fait l'honneur, notamment Madame Sarr et aussi la présidente, non, la ministre de la jeunesse sportive qui est au milieu de nous du côté du Libéria et aussi toutes les autres personnalités qui sont là. Il a continué son discours en évoquant pourquoi nous sommes là aujourd'hui, nous célébrons ce droit de la femme aujourd'hui parce qu'elles ont contribué dans tous les domaines, que ce soit politique, que ce soit dans la musique, que ce soit euh, dans bien d'autres domaines scientifiques et même littérature. Voilà, aujourd'hui, qui nous ont laissé un legs, de sorte que nous puissions nous en servir. Sur ce, je peux m'arrêter là pour ce petit résumé. Merci à vous.
Merci beaucoup, honorable Dokone, pour ce résumé très concis et précis en français. Merci encore une fois. I will continue in English again. We now invite an international lawyer with over 20 years of experience in human rights, international law, governance, and dispute resolution. She has trained and worked with leading institutions across Africa, Europe, and the United States, and brings deep expertise in human rights system at regional and international levels. Today, she will address strengthening women's economic empowerment and addressing the gender gap as a foundation for leadership. As she speaks, I encourage everyone to actively listen and reflect. Please prepare 2 thoughtful questions and feel free to send them to me privately via inbox. I'll be collecting them and will raise a few during the question and answer session. Please join me in welcoming Barrister Oluwatosin Ngowa to the floor. Ms. Oluwatosin, the floor is truly yours. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Yasin. Please, is she joining with a new device name? Because I can't
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
What's the device name, please?
I think it's to see. Let me check again in the. Yes. Where is it?
Okay, can she raise her hand? If possible, please, lawyer.
Barrister Olwatusin Engowa, would you mind raising your hand so that we can activate your video and microphone?
Tosin.
He has joined with a new device. She told me just
got
a
it.
while
Yeah,
ago.
I've
Yeah,
seen
yeah,
it.
you got it?
Yeah,
Yes,
Tosin.
thank
Okay.
you. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Please. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Finally. We can never predict the technology sometimes. It just goes its own way. And then we are wondering what is going on. So distinguished organizers of this wonderful program, Mr. Junaidu Abdulkadir H. Calgo, the interim regional chairman of the West Africa Youth Assembly, Ms. Yasin Ngiaya Sibao, the chairman, organizing committee, esteemed guests, fellow advocates, and powerful women of Africa. I am deeply honored to be invited to speak at this virtual summit on the International Day for Women's Rights, a moment that calls not only for celebration, but also for reflection, action, and renewed commitment. This event actually brought to mind something personal to me, and even the topic of this event. This month, 30 years ago, we lost my dear father in a tragic accident. He left behind my mother and 5 children between the ages of 10 and 19. After going through the rigors of his burial in our hometown and returning to our base in Ibadan, Nigeria, my mother received a visitor, a woman. This woman presented an offer to my mother to take her 3 oldest children, her 3 oldest daughters, to the UK, process their visas, and sponsor their education to the United Kingdom. The oldest, which was my older sister, was 19 years old, followed by my 16-year-old younger sister and myself, who was about 17 years old at that time. My mother thanked her and rejected the offer, explaining that she was capable and would take care of her own children. As young children then, or young teenagers, when we heard that my mom had turned down what seemed like a sweet proposal, we were upset and we wondered why she would do such a thing. After all, so many people would have considered this a life-changing opportunity. Many years later, as I reflect on this incident, I cannot help but thank my mother for that decision, because I realized that so many women and families have been deceived by similar offers of help and ended up being trafficked as sex slaves in Europe or the UK, wherever, and thereby truncating the dreams of these women. The reason my mother was able to reject this seemingly great offer was because she was educated, even up to a master's degree level, and she was gainfully employed. She was earning a steady income, and she may have lost her husband, but she did not lose her source of financial empowerment. She went on to train all of us at the university level in Nigeria, and over the years, we have gone on to pursue postgraduate studies in the United States, in the United Kingdom, and Europe. All these dreams of our young hearts were finally met in one way or the other. As we gather under the theme, West African Women, Celebrating Legacy, Strengthening Leadership, and shaping the road ahead. We are reminded that leadership is not built in isolation. It is cultivated through opportunity, equity, and empowerment. To achieve this, we must move beyond celebration into honest evaluation and decisive action. Because the truth is, we cannot talk about women in leadership without confronting inequality. Across Africa, progress has been made, but not nearly enough. According to the UN statistics from the UN Women, women hold just 27.5% of parliamentary seats globally and about 27% in sub-Saharan Africa. In West Africa, however, the gap is even more pronounced, with women occupying only 16% of parliamentary seats on the average. In some countries, the disparity is even more striking. For example, in Nigeria, Africa's largest democracy, and my country, we have less than 5% female representation in parliament. What does this mean? It means men overwhelmingly dominate decision-making spaces, despite women making roughly half of the population. It means that policies are often shaped without fully reflecting women's realities. And it means leadership pipelines remains structurally unequal. Even at the highest level, the imbalance persists. Across Africa, only a handful of women have ever held presidential offices. We have Ellen Johnson Sirleaf of Liberia, who held that position from 2006 to 2018. We have Joyce Banda of Malawi, who held the office from 2012 to 2014. We have Amina Gurib Fakim of Mauritius, who held the position from 2015 to 2018. We have Saleh Work Zwede of Ethiopia, who held the office from 2018 to 2024. Now we have Samia Suluhu Hassan from Tanzania, who has been the president of Tanzania from 2021 till date. And then Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwa of Namibia, who has held the position from March last year till present. So in the entire African continent, we have just 2 female presidents in the entire continent. That is very poor. And we know without a doubt that there's a lot of work to be done. So when we talk about closing the gender gap, we are not speaking in abstract terms. We are addressing a deep imbalance of power. At the heart of this conversation lies a truth that we can no longer afford to overlook. Economic empowerment is the bedrock of women's leadership. Without economic agency, leadership remains a distant aspiration for many women across our region. Across West Africa, women are the backbone of our economies. They dominate informal trade, sustain agricultural production, and nurture communities. Yet, despite these contributions, they continue to face systemic barriers, such as limited access to finance, unequal pay, restricted land ownership, and cultural norms that constrain their potential. This is the gender gap we must confront, not as an abstract issue, but as a lived reality affecting millions. But there is also opportunity. When we invest in women and girls, the results are transformative. Evidence shows that women reinvest up to 90% of their income into their families and communities, leading to better education, health, and economic outcomes. Also, increasing women's participation in the economy could boost Africa's GDP by billions of dollars. Further, Countries with higher female representation in leadership tend to prioritize education, healthcare, and social protection more effectively. We already see powerful examples across Africa. In countries like Senegal and Rwanda, higher female representation in parliament has driven stronger progress in gender-sensitive laws and social reforms. Rwanda, with over 60% women in parliament, stands as a global model for inclusive governance. In Ghana, recent legislative efforts aim to increase women's participation in governance to at least 30%, recognizing that inclusion drives national development. These outcomes are not coincidental. They are the result of intentional investment. The link between economic empowerment and leadership is clear and direct. Leadership requires voice. Voice requires confidence. And confidence is often built on independence, particularly economic independence. A woman with access to finance, education, and opportunity is more likely to run for office, lead organizations, influence policy, challenge inequality. Economic empowerment builds confidence, credibility, and capacity, which are the foundations of leadership. Yet, across West Africa, significant barriers remain. Limited access to credit and land ownership, a disproportionate burden of unpaid care work. We see a lot of times that women are the ones who are left to take care of the children at home. They are the ones who are left to take care of the elderly and persons with disability in their country, in their families. Yet they are not paid for all this work or for all this work that they do. Cultural norms that restrict leadership roles. We all also know that in some certain cultures, women can be seen but cannot be heard, or women are to be seen and not be heard. We also have cultures that say only the man should lead, only the man should talk, the woman should be quiet. All these norms restrict leadership roles for women. If these structural challenges are not addressed, leadership equality will remain out of reach. A woman who controls resources, earns a stable income, and has access to financial systems is far more likely to participate in decision-making at every level within her home, her community, and her nation. Economic empowerment transforms women from participants to leaders. However, empowerment alone is not enough. We must also dismantle the structural inequalities that limit women's advancement. This requires us to expand access to education and digital literacy for girls and women, create inclusive financial systems for women entrepreneurs, enforce policies that guarantee equal pay and workplace protection, challenge cultural norms that restrict women's leadership. We must act intentionally and collectively by investing in girls' education, especially in STEM and digital skills, expanding financial inclusion for women entrepreneurs and informal workers, implement and enforce gender quotas and inclusive policies, challenge harmful social norms, support mentorship and leadership pipelines for young women. Most importantly, we must move from empowerment as a concept to empowerment as a system. We must also recognize the unique strength of West African women, the legacy of resilience passed down through generations, from market women who drive local economies to young innovators reshaping industries. Our region is rich with examples of women who lead against all odds. We continue to be inspired by women such as Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, Dr. Amina Mohammed, Dr. Fatu Bensouda, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, Wangari Maathai, Lima Gbowe, and Yvonne Akisoya, among many other women. However, we cannot continue to rely on resilience alone. Women should not have to overcome extraordinary barriers to access what should be ordinary opportunities. To the youth, especially the young women joining us today, you are not just the leaders of tomorrow, you are change makers of today. Your voices, ideas, and actions are already shaping the future of West Africa, but you must be supported with the tools, networks, and opportunities to thrive. To institutions like the West Africa Youth Assembly, your role is critical. By advocating for good governance, fostering unity, and building inclusive platforms, you are laying the foundation for a region where women's leadership is the norm, not the exception. And to policymakers and stakeholders, investing in women is not charity, it is strategy. When women succeed, economies grow, communities stabilize, and nations prosper. So let us move forward with a shared commitment to close the gender gap, not just in words, but through measurable action. To invest in women, not just as beneficiaries, but as leaders. To create systems that not only include women, but empower them to lead fully and freely. In closing, strengthening women's economic empowerment is not just about fairness. It is about building a future where leadership reflects the full strength of our society. A future where every girl in West Africa can dream boldly, not because she's exceptional, but because the system supports her. This is the road ahead, and together we must shape it. Thank you very much for your attention. Merci beaucoup. Muito obrigado.
Wow. Can you send your heart, your words of congratulation, your signs of congratulation to Ms. Oluwatosin Engowa for her insightful and impactful presentation. Ms. Engowa, in this context of celebrating the West African icons, your mother's story really fits to this context. And thank you for inspiring all of us. Thank you for inspiring all the young women here present today. Thank you for inspiring the West Africa Youth Assembly in your presentation. And thank you once again for this brilliant analysis of the gender gap across West Africa and the cultural norms that continue to hinder women empowerment. They were well analyzed. Thank you very much. This is very interesting. Now, it is with a great pleasure that we welcome our guest of honor, Honorable Jamila Bio Ibrahim, former Minister of Youth Development of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. She is not only a leader, but a true architect of public policy, combining professionalism, dedication, and a strong sense of duty. Through innovative initiatives and visionary reforms, she has created opportunities for millions of young people and women. The West Africa Youth Assembly is deeply honored to host her today. Honorable Jamila Bia Ibrahim will be speaking on advancing women's participation in political, institutional, and decision-making spaces. As we, with the previous session, I invite all participants to prepare 2 questions while she's speaking and send them to me via inbox. I'll compile them and bring forward selected questions during the discussion segment. Honorable Jamila Bia Ibrahim, the floor is truly yours. Thank you.
Hello, Honorable. Oh, thank you so much. We could see that
Yes,
you've
good
accepted.
afternoon.
Good, thank you. Yeah.
Yes, sorry. Good afternoon. I would like to proceed on the established protocols by the previous speaker, Barrister Oluwatosin, who has done great justice to the topic, which she treated. I'm really delighted to speak to you, distinguished leaders across Africa, esteemed colleagues and partners in development, and my dear brothers and sisters from the West African sub-region. Let me begin with a simple but urgent question. How can a region, or can a region truly rise when half of its voice is missing from the table where decisions are being made? Across West Africa, women are the backbone of our economies, the strength of our families, and the drivers of our economies, of our communities. Yet, when it comes to leadership, our power, when it comes to leadership, or when it comes to power, the presence of women fades. I'm deeply honored to speak to you today from thousands of miles away from home. Please pardon my posture because this is the best position I could find. I'm speaking to you very far away from home. And I also am a little bit under the weather. I don't know if you can see a fever blister that my makeup can barely cover, but I had made a commitment to be here today to speak. And I would not bore you much with the barriers because I was told to address the topic of on advancing women's leadership and participation in political, institutional, and decision-making spaces across West Africa, and to elaborate on the progresses that have been made, or rather the progress that has been made, and the challenges, the barriers that women encounter. And Barrister Tosi has dwelled quite a lot on the barriers that women encounter, and she has also provided some solutions. Just so we do not continue to repeat ourselves, I will just go into the statistics of what is obtainable within the across the countries of the West African states and across Africa, and then compare it to the global benchmark. So once again, I'm deeply honored to speak to you today on a matter that is not only urgent, but fundamental to the future of our region and advancing women's leadership and participation in political and decision-making spaces across West Africa. And I would like to appreciate the leadership of WAYA for deeming me uh, considering me worthy of being a guest of honor at this event, marking the International Women's Day, International Day for Women's Rights 2026. And I also would like to appreciate the recognition that has been accorded to me alongside other notable women, African women who I also idolized across over the years, rather, women like Ellen Johnson, Her Excellency Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and Aminata Torre, and Her Excellency Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. Just to mention a few of those women, it is a profound privilege to be recognized as an icon. So pardon me if I sound a bit nervous while I'm appreciating this recognition because I'm highly overwhelmed. Thank you very much. So, West Africa is a region rich in diversity, resilience, and potential. Yet, despite women making up nearly half of our population, their representation in leadership positions and influence remains both critically low and uneven across countries. This is not just a gender issue, it is a development issue, a governance issue, and ultimately a justice issue. So let us look closely at the reality across the region. In Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation, as previous, because it had been previously mentioned, but I have to stress this because there's an urgent need to address this critically low representation of women in the Nigerian parliament, which is less than 5%, making it one of the lowest rates on the African continent, not just in West Africa. But I've seen recently there's some efforts that are being made to address this, like the Empower Her 774 initiative and the Nigeria for Women initiative, which is seeing it's devising. Well, I'll discuss this a little later, but I've seen strategies put in place by the Nigerian government to ensure that this this disparity is addressed. So in Ghana, women represent around 14% of parliament, despite ongoing efforts and reforms aimed at reaching a 30% inclusion target. And in Liberia, this is Liberia is a case. In Liberia, a country that once elected Africa's first female president, women currently make up to 10% of the legislature. It's a reminder to us that progress is not always linear. So we must continue to make effort to sustain the successes that we have recorded when it comes to women representation. In Cote d'Ivoire, women account for roughly 15% of parliamentary representation, reflecting gradual but insufficient progress. In Sierra Leone, we saw a shift after the 2023 general election, where women representation in parliament significantly increased from 14.5% to 30.4%. This surge is actually driven by the Gateway Act of 2023, the Gender and Women Empowerment Act. So this is one great success story that we're recording in West Africa, and I hope that the government of Sierra Leone continues to sustain this progress. In Mali, women's representation stands at around 27%, largely due to gender quota laws, demonstrating the impact of deliberate policy action. And in Senegal is, I mean, can we all have, I don't know if you have this emoji for a round of applause on Zoom. Can we please give Senegal and the Republic of Togo a resounding round of applause? Because the women in Senegal hold 40% of parliamentary seats, making it one of the leading examples, not only in West Africa, but across the African continent, demonstrating that with strong political will and gender quota systems, transformation is achievable. So, cabinet leadership now. Regarding cabinet leadership, the Republic of Togo is in 2020. They have not really been able to sustain that progress as of 2026, but it's still a point of reference that it is achievable. So in year 2020, that the Republic of Togo appointed her first female prime minister, and the cabinet representation for women was 30%. So they had 11 female ministers out of 33. And not just female ministers now, not just women occupying quotas now, they actually occupied key positions like the Ministry of Armed Forces, Ministry of Digital Economy, and the Ministry of Trade. So it's not just for women to add to numbers or warm seats, but their decisions, must be in key positions to ensure that they're influential and they make a sustainable impact. So this contrasting realities now They tell us a powerful story, sends a clear message that progress is possible, and prove that inclusion is a choice. So it's a decision that it's a choice rather that governments have to make. Is gender inclusion a priority? And should we pursue gender inclusion? If we must achieve sustainable development, then I believe that the West African states must pursue impactful gender inclusion, not just to make women into appoint women or elect women into offices and turn them into bench warmers. So the progress is not automatic, but it requires commitment, policy, deliberate action, and sustained effort. So the question now is no longer, can we advance women's leadership? The question is, why haven't we done enough? Well, the truth is very uncomfortable, but we must continue to ask ourselves, how can we build inclusive democracy across, or how can we build inclusive democracies across the West African sub-region when women who form half of our societies remain largely excluded from decision making? We must ask ourselves, how can we truly achieve sustainable development if half of our population is excluded from shaping the policies that govern our societies? So, my dear distinguished participants, across West Africa, the regional average for women's representation in parliament remains around 16.1%, far below the global benchmark for gender parity. These numbers are not just statistics, they represent voices unheard, perspectives excluded, and potential unrealized. This reality should concern us all. Across Africa, more broadly now, women's representation in national parliament stand at approximately 26%. That's above the West African average. Right, reflecting progress, but this progress is far too slow. Globally, women occupy 27.5% of parliamentary seats, showing that gender inequality in leadership is still a widespread challenge across the globe. But behind these numbers now, we must also know that there lies a deeper truth that women are not lacking in leadership ability, but systems are failing to include them. Throughout history, African women have demonstrated exceptional leadership acumen, from grassroots mobilization to national governance. However, structural barriers continue to limit them from full participation. So this is not just an issue that concerns women. These are systemic challenges that require collective solutions. And of course, the barriers are well known and already elaborated by Barrister Tosin. So I don't want to go so deep into these barriers. But gender quotas and inclusive electoral systems are essential if we must achieve gender equality. And enforcement of laws that protect women in politics are very critical. Representation should not be symbolic, it must be substantive and impactful, like I said earlier. And countries like Senegal, Sierra Leone, Mali, and Togo have shown that gender quotas and legal reforms can significantly accelerate women's participation. It is proof that they are not just symbolic tools, but effective mechanisms for accelerating inclusion. So the evidence is before us, and the numbers we have seen. So the data evidence is before us, and the disparities are clear. But so too is the opportunity. As a region, we must move beyond conversation. We must move beyond rhetoric and commit to intentional action. So today, let this not be just another conversation. Let it be a turning point. Let it be the moment we decide that the statistics we quote today will not be the statistics we repeat tomorrow. And even if we repeat similar statistics, we shouldn't fall behind. We should make progress and have progressive data. We must record progress with our statistics. So let today be the moment we move from promises to progress, from words to action, and from exclusion to equality. Because somewhere in West Africa right now, a young girl is watching. She's watching how we lead. She's watching how what we allow, and she's watching what we change. So let us make sure she grows up in a region where her leadership is not questioned, but it is expected. A region where she does not have to fight to be heard because her voice already matters. Let her grow up in a region where she's not just she does not just participate, but she leads. The future of West Africa depends on this, and we must together work together towards a more inclusive and equitable future. So I would like to um, dwell on a few strategies that can help us dismantle some of the patriarchal. Well, should I better just wait for it to come in questions, because I mean, patriarchy is a key challenge for um, gender inclusion. Yasin, what do you suggest?
Okay, we can wait the question answer session if you want.
Yes, yes, I
Okay.
think that would be better, because I do not want to bore you all with all of this. But in closing, I would like to just say that the government of Nigeria has seen in recent, as of 2026, early first quarter, I've seen the strategy is there's a change in strategy from the government of Nigeria. And then also, we may be asking ourselves, how did Senegal achieve 40% inclusion? Senegal deployed a system called the Zebra or the Zipper system, right? Where political parties present candidate lists in alternation of gender. So if the male is first and the female is second, so the candidates at the primaries are zipped already. So there's no way women can be excluded, because the law, it's a law they have decided to implement, and that has actually paid off, because we've seen that positive um, the impact in the numbers of women in parliament. Well, Nigeria is shifting now, because we've been trying to also implement legislation for parity, gender equality, and all of that, which Senegal has done the gender parity law. So Nigeria has been trying to pass this law in parliament, but we have there's still a lot of work to be done. But I see that the government is shifting from waiting for the center now to decide. They're now decentralizing it and focusing more on economic empowerment of women. Because when women take charge, and I see that they're focusing on sectors like agriculture and the energy value chain. So when you empower women at the grassroots levels from the local government, the 774 is the local number of local governments in Nigeria. So when you empower women economically, then they're independent and they're able to run for elections and, of course, include themselves politically, and they don't have to wait for seats at the table, because they already own sectors and are already, financially stable or independent. So that's one strategy that Nigeria is deploying. So we're now looking at it from a bottom up approach, as opposed to waiting for the center to pass the legislation, because women can no longer afford to wait. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions.
Round of applause for Honorable Jamila Bio Ibrahim, please. Thank you very much, Honorable Jamila, for that powerful and enlightening presentation. We wish you a quick recovery. We acknowledge your commitment to participating in this commemoration of the International Day for Women's Rights. This means a lot to us, and this is an inspiration for all young leaders listening to you. Your description of the situation of women in decision making process in Africa passing today really inspires and highlight the situation of countries like Senegal and Togo, Mali, Sierra Leone, which are example for others. This means gender equality is not a choice. And let us stop repeating statistics. Let us engage actions. Your message really inspires, and it is really powerful. So, before moving forward, I'm just going to ask Dr. Do, to give us the French key points of Dr. Jamila, Honorable Jamila Bio Ibrahim's presentation, and Barrister Olwatusin Engowa before we move on to the question and answer sessions. Thank you very much.
Merci à Madame Yacine pour la modération et à toutes nos présentatrices qui viennent de nous faire l'honneur avec ces présentations très, très brillantes. La première nous a instruit d'abord avec son histoire personnelle. Voilà, son histoire personnelle lorsqu'elle a perdu son père et qu'elle avait eu des propositions, elle et on va dire tous ses frères et sœurs avaient eu une proposition de pouvoir aller en Europe pour continuer les études. Mais grâce au leadership de leur maman, du, on va dire, du potentiel de leur maman, elle ne on va pas dire qu'elle s'est opposée, mais elle a proposé que les enfants resteraient et que les enfants allaient continuer les études. Et c'est ce qui s'est passé. Elle nous a narré son histoire du fait que c'est vrai que c'était une opportunité que, en tant qu'enfant, elles ont vu passer, mais en réalité, quand leur maman a insisté que cette opportunité-là, elle devait rester pour continuer ses études, et c'est ce qui a été. Chacun et chacune ont continué jusqu'au au cycle universitaire et cela aujourd'hui, on va dire, leur a ouvert une autre opportunité de sorte qu'elles sont indépendantes. Elle a été déjà à l'université et après même en Europe. Ensuite, nous a instruit aussi sur beaucoup de points, notamment elle a fait la statistique sur la situation de la représentation des femmes de manière générale en Afrique. Et ensuite, elle nous a aussi instruit sur le fait que euh, d'autres femmes, voilà, d'autres femmes, d'autres figures emblématiques qu'on peut citer du côté du Libéria, elle en a parlé du côté de la Malawi, de la Tanzanie, de la Namibie, et elle a aussi relevé le fait que à ce jour, nous avons que deux femmes présidentes dans toute l'Afrique. Elle aussi, elle a fait que, elle a évoqué le fait que ce gap-là, pour le surpasser, il nous faut évidemment des actions. Et ce n'est pas le fait de le dire, mais pour nous, aujourd'hui, c'est le fait de prendre des actions. Ensuite, elle a évoqué maintenant le volet économique. Pour elle, c'est investir, pardon, investir dans la femme, c'est un investissement sur retour à 90%, c'est-à-dire quand on investit dans une femme, en retour, on est à 90% sûr que cet investissement-là retournera dans la famille. Donc, investir dans la femme, on va dire, c'est éduquer tout simplement toute la famille. Elle aussi, elle a évoqué le volet sanitaire dans lequel beaucoup de femmes ont évolué et le volet politique avec notamment le cas du Sénégal, elle avait évoqué aussi le cas du Ghana. Voilà, et pour nous, aujourd'hui, ce leadership-là doit pouvoir nous conduire à prendre des actions. Ensuite, pour continuer toujours avec la première présentation, elle nous a aussi évoqué le volet culturel. Voilà, le volet culturel où des femmes nous ont aussi instruits à ce niveau qui font entendre leur voix. Et cela, on va dire, nécessite pour nous, en tant que jeune génération aussi à venir, à faire à faire entendre la voix féminine pour ne pas que ça soit une option, mais que ça soit euh, une nécessité, de sorte que cette voix-là qui pèse et qui a le potentiel puisse vraiment nous aider dans tout ce que l'on pourra entreprendre pour l'avancement de la société. Elle a évoqué aussi le volet éducation. voilà, le volet éducation qui est très important. On le dit, éduquer une femme, c'est éduquer toute une nation. Elle nous a aussi instruit de ce que on doit pouvoir euh, accompagner cela et voir cela comme un système, voilà, pas seulement comme une action simple, mais on doit arriver à comprendre cela comme un système. C'est-à-dire que l'implication de la femme doit être dans un système. On sait que le système fonctionne comme une chaîne et lorsqu'un élément vient à manquer, alors tout le système va se trouver en défaillance. Elle a cité les figures, je vais pêle-mêle les citer, Ellen Johnson, elle a cité Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, elle a cité Wangari Maathai, pêle-mêle, et toutes les figures, toutes ces figures-là que nous connaissons très bien, qui ont vaillamment contribué à l'évolution, que ce soit dans la politique, que ce soit dans la science, et que ce soit aussi dans le domaine éducatif, qui nous ont vraiment laissé un legs qui aujourd'hui nous conduit encore. Et pour elle, elle a euh, terminé en disant que ces jeunes filles-là qui pour elles aujourd'hui, c'est vrai on peut se faire entendre, on peut se faire entendre et ne pas être vu. Et aussi, on peut être vu et ne pas se faire entendre. Et elle a terminé pour dire que investir dans la femme, ce n'est pas une charité. Voilà, c'est pas un acte de charité, mais c'est un investissement et un investissement sur retour qui se lève à 90% dans la famille. On reconnaît très bien le rôle de la femme lorsqu'il s'agit de l'éducation de la famille, lorsqu'il s'agit de prendre soin de la famille, lorsqu'il s'agit de comprendre même que c'est la femme qui est le fondement même de toute la famille. Et on le dit, si la famille va bien, forcément, euh, le pays ira mieux et c'est le monde entier, l'humanité qui gagne. Donc, pour résumer pêle-mêle, la première présentation que nous avons vue, elle est partie de son propre histoire, donc l'histoire de sa famille, et ainsi nous instruire sur toutes ces figures-là féminines qui ont marqué, on va dire, un tant soit peu notre histoire. Ça, c'était la première présentation. Yasin, if I can go ahead with the second one, or
Yeah, you can go with the second one very briefly. Yep.
voilà, pour résumer, la deuxième, autant pour moi, la deuxième présentation, elle a plutôt fait, on va dire, l'étalage de toutes les statistiques concernant la représentativité de la femme dans, on va dire, dans la sous-région, mais aussi en Afrique de manière générale. Elle est passée par le Ghana, par le Libéria, la Côte d'Ivoire qui se lève avec 15% de représentativité, la Sierra Leone, le Mali et aussi le Sénégal pour lequel elle a beaucoup d'admiration et je pense que c'est le cas pour nous tous ici qui se lève à 40% de représentation avec le Sénégal. Elle nous a même invité à applaudir et à acclamer le Sénégal qui a fait un pas de géant. Aussi, elle a évoqué le cas du Togo avec toutes ces statistiques-là qu'on peut voir aujourd'hui, mais on voit que encore la représentativité de la femme reste toujours en deçà. Et pour elle, maintenant, la question qu'on peut se poser, pourquoi n'avons-nous pas fait assez pour inclure la femme alors que c'est elle qui doit être à la base des décisions. C'est-à-dire que pourquoi celui ou la personne qui doit être à la base des décisions n'est pas à la table des décisions? Voilà, ça c'était sa deuxième question après la première question introductive où elle est allée aussi un peu plus loin en nous invitant toujours à aller au-delà des situations pour faire de progrès et de passer des promesses aux actions. C'est-à-dire que l'on a toujours promis, mais on n'a pas véritablement pris des actions. Pour elle, cette jeune fille-là qui aujourd'hui admire ou qui est dans un coin du monde et qui regarde les choses, elle devra être entendue parce que sa voix n'est pas optionnelle, sa voix n'est pas une alternative. Sa voix n'est pas facultative, mais sa voix est plutôt, on va dire, une action ou un élément essentiel dans ce maillon-là que nous sommes en train de former. Elle s'est arrêtée encore sur, elle voulait évoquer le cas patriarcal ou l'idée patriarcale qui est aussi très important dans l'inclusion de la femme parce que ça cause des fois une barrière pour que ce soit pour nos sociétés, mais aussi pour la femme en général. Donc, elle souhaiterait que les questions soient orientées dans ce sens. Elle a terminé sa présentation avec, une fois de plus, le cas du Sénégal qui est salutaire quand il s'agit de l'inclusion de la femme. Elle a cité que le système sénégalais aujourd'hui est comme un système en zigzag ou qui permet que lorsque le président ou quelqu'un, un parlementaire est élu, la personne qui doit suivre, seconder, doit être une femme. Si le premier est un homme, le second doit être une femme. Et si le second est une femme, le deuxième doit être un homme. Donc, ça permet déjà de voir de manière visible l'inclusion de la femme. Et c'est sur ce cas-là qu'elle a terminé sa présentation. Je vous remercie.
Nous vous remercions également, Dr. Do. Encore une fois, merci beaucoup. Merci encore une fois. Before moving to the question and answer session, allow me to call upon a lady, a great personality. It is then my honor to welcome our keynote speaker, a distinct leader and role model for young people across Africa, Attorney Cornelia Wonkele Krua, Minister of Youth and Sports of the Republic of Liberia. Recently called to the bar, she embodies excellence, leadership, and a deep commitment to youth development. Her work continues to inspire a new generation of leaders across the continent. Barrister Cornelia Wonkele Krua, the floor is truly yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning to everybody. I'm guessing it's morning everywhere. If not, hello. And it is a pleasure, it is an honor to be here this morning to engage with you. Apologies for not being able to put my video on, and that's because I'm in the rural parts of Liberia. I recently commenced a tour of the 15 counties of Liberia to engage with the young people and do general assessment of our work at the Ministry of Youth and Sports in those other counties. It's always a pleasure to discuss issues affecting women, to celebrate women as our team here today speaks of, and to focus on what we can do to strengthen women's leadership across Africa and prepare for the road ahead. I apologize for the quality of my voice. On this assessment tour that I've been on, we've had to have a lot of town halls, and because it's the rural parts of Liberia, there are some instances where you don't have microphones, so you have to shout, and I'm gradually losing my voice. But yeah, today we are here to celebrate those who have made legacies in women development. I come from a country, Liberia, where we have two of those women that will come to mind very easily when you speak about women and women leadership and their role that they've played generally in Africa. The first person that comes to mind is Her Excellency President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the first female president of Liberia and first democratically elected female president of Africa. She has been a champion for women leadership prior to her ascendancy and even during her ascendancy and currently after her presidency. She runs currently the Amuje Initiative. Amuje Initiative aims at giving the platform to women who are playing leadership role across various sectors, not just in politics, in business, and women who have at least taken the first step on the global scene and being able to provide that mentorship and support and help to remove barriers from their way as they continue to navigate their daily lives in those leadership roles. Madam Sirleaf serves as a beacon of hope for a lot of us. She serves as a motivation, I believe, not just for women in Liberia, young women in Liberia, older women in Liberia, but women across the continent to show that it is possible. Whatever our current dreams are, our plans are, with respect to women's leadership and participation in general acquisitions of different spaces in Africa, it is possible because she did it, and a lot of other women now after her continue to do said. But I'm sure the situation we have in Liberia is similar to other African countries, that even though we had a female as president here in Liberia, it still have not significantly impacted the amount of women that we have in leadership, even after she served her term. It will surprise you to know that we're still struggling for women's participation and representation, especially in the legislature or in elected position. Currently in Liberia, at the legislature, we have two houses. So you have the Senate and the House of Representatives. That's how our system here is. We currently have 6 females, all out of the House of Representatives of 73 persons, 73 seats. We have only 6 females. And out of 30 senators, currently we have only 3 females. So it shows you that we still have a lot to do in Liberia with regards to women's participation. And I'm sure that this is similar to other African countries. While we continue to celebrate the legacies that women have made, and some of them have shattered those barriers, there is still a lot of work that needs to be done. There is this first principle that believes the setting of quotas is the most effective way of ensuring that we have increment in this participation. We have seen some examples of places where that has worked effectively. We still have other countries struggling to get the quota legislated. In Liberia, we do have some sort of quota, but it has still been a struggle in meeting those quota. So that makes us to ask whether it's just putting these percentages in place and making them laws and quotas, or whether we have to focus on something more than just setting the laws on a book. In Liberia, our National Elections Commission has a policy that every party that is submitting candidates for elections, especially during general elections, must have 30% of those candidates who are females. However, we've seen many instances where to find female willing and ready to participate in these elections become very difficult, and most parties will be willing to pay the fine that are imposed on them if you cannot reach the 30% quota. I happen to be a national vice chair for Interparty and NEC Affairs, National Elections Commission Affairs, of the current ruling party of Liberia. So I'm the 4th person in the leadership structure in this party, the Unity Party. In the Unity Party, my role is to process and vet the different candidates that will contest on the party's ticket, to coordinate their registration and processes with the National Elections Commission. And in our just ended elections 2023, we faced serious difficulties in getting women who were willing and ready to participate in these processes. So that brings me to the question of whether it is just important to set the quotas or whether we want to focus on empowering women and preparing them to participate in these elections and take up leadership position. You will see me focusing a little more on political leadership because I feel that those in politics or those taking up leadership in political spaces are the gatekeepers to most of the areas that we want to see women growing. A politician can intentionally strangulate a business space. A politician or a leader in politics can intentionally um, provide a lot of barriers for women that are involved in whether security or entrepreneurship or sciences or what have you, because they are the gatekeeper, unfortunately. And politics compared to other fields in Africa have become very popular and one of the fastest growing means of influence in Africa. So if we as women can find our way around taking up spaces in that area where specific and strategic decisions are being made, I believe that will give us headway in a lot of these influence and impacts that we want to make across the different sectors. I am quite controversial as a person and especially an advocate for women's leadership. And I do not lean too much towards the institution of quota. I feel that the effort and the energy that we put into setting these laws that most times from past experiences, especially in most African countries, have proven that it's hard to reach them. We should focus on providing more support for women. We have a lot of NGOs that come, international NGOs and other partners that provide support for women in politics. And I have been involved in elections twice now in Liberia. I've contested for a seat, representative seat. The first time I contested, I came third all of the 11 candidates that I contested. The second time I contested, I came second out of 20 plus candidates that contested. In both instances, what stood in the way of me getting elected wasn't the workshop or the fact that I didn't have technical expertise on running campaigns, or I didn't know how to do my campaign messaging, or I didn't know how to engage with women in those communities. What was my biggest barrier was access to funding to campaign and measure with the men that were involved in these elections. And I think as women, while we advocate generally for quotas, while we advocate for training and technical support, we must find a way around that. How do we provide financial support to women who are ready and willing and are capable of taking up leadership roles? Until we can do that, there will be a lot of women who will risk it, who will get involved in politics. But as we have men with more resources, who will always be outweighed by those men, and they will continue to take spaces because they already own those spaces. These are some of the hard conversations we need to have when we celebrate women, when we talk about shaping the role ahead and how we want to position women to take up leadership roles across the various sectors in Africa. It is my hope that as we continue to have these dialogues, we have an open mind towards it. We go beyond just what we have on the books. You know, they have all these theories of how one can win an election, how one can take up spaces and get influence. But if we look at our African setting and our cultures and the reality on the ground, we will acknowledge that while those things are on the books, the reality are far different from what we are taught. Perhaps intentionally, so women can continue to use the wrong formulas that would not get us in spaces that we should be. Perhaps just that we are not shaking the table enough. As someone who champions women leadership and participation across the different sections of our society, I will ask that as we engage in these discussions, that we focus on what is most important. And what is most important is not just general advocacy, but providing those technical, financial, and other intentional support to ensure that women take up spaces that they should take up and they stay at those tables even after. In Liberia, as I said, we had a female president. If you come to Liberia now and do a survey, you will see that most of the men will tell you before a woman becomes president again, it's going to take maybe another 50 years. How can we change those mindsets? And I'm sure it's the same in other African countries where you have one woman serving and the men feel that that's an opportunity for them to gang and ensure that that doesn't happen again because that is their space. I'm not saying that they are not he for she's. I know there are a lot of men who support women, but we also should not turn a blind eye to the fact that this is a whole cartel that we as women are trying to break. And if we are trying to break it, we have to engage in this as though it's an emergency. It cannot just be one regular conversation that we're having as women. So as we go through today's engagement, I'll ask, let's continue to ask ourselves, what can we do different? How can we change our approach to ensure that women participation in the spaces that women should be in, they are taking up more of those spaces. I want to thank the organizers for inviting me. I had to step away from all of the up and downs to be here because I know how important this is to engage with other women from across Africa. And I look forward to more collaborations and engagements going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We also look forward to more collaborations, your hearts, your stickers of congratulations to Attorney Juan Kelly Crua for that powerful and thought provoking keynote address. Your words have truly set the tone for this commemoration and reminded us of the urgency and importance of advancing women's rights with clarity, courage, and commitment. We are deeply grateful for your presence, your insights, and the strength of your message. Thank you, and thank you once again, Attorney Connie Wonkele Krua. Now I am going to move to the French summary by giving the floor to one of our brothers present here, Ibrahim Job. If you can do a quick summary in French um, uh, for this brilliant presentation, keynote address of Minister Cornelia Wonkele Croix. Go ahead, brother.
Sorry, Yasin, you give me the floor?
Okay, you can also go ahead,
I
Dokone.
don't, I don't know. I saw my mic unmute, so
Okay, go ahead. Just
okay.
a brief summary. Yep.
Ok. Nous avons eu l'honneur de la participation de Madame la ministre de la Jeunesse et des Sports du côté du Libéria, qui nous a instruit sur son histoire personnelle et elle a dit qu'elle ne peut pas commencer euh, à parler de cette journée sans parler de Madame Son Excellence Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, qui fut la première femme présidente, non seulement du Libéria, mais aussi euh, de l'Afrique. Elle a aussi évoqué le fait qu'elle a mené plusieurs actions dans le sens de la paix. Elle a aussi évoqué le fait que elle continue encore de mener des efforts pour que la femme soit motivée à être inclue dans le tissu social ou politique en tout ce qui concerne l'inclusion. Elle a largement parlé on va dire, des institutions du Libéria, notamment du Sénat et du Parlement, qui, pour le Sénat, trois représentantes de voix féminines, et pour le Parlement, six représentantes. Elle a aussi évoqué qu'il y a encore beaucoup à faire parce que pour elle, parler de toutes ces institutions et qui évoque encore de voir encore que la voix de la femme est moins entendue et pour elle, il y a encore beaucoup de choses à faire. Elle a aussi rappelé que actuellement même, pour son cas où elle est beaucoup impliquée, elle a été impliquée dans le processus électoral du Libéria et dans son cas personnel, elle a évoqué les challenges et les difficultés qu'elle a dû rencontrer, même quant au soutien et, on va dire, au fonds qu'elle devrait collecter pour mener sa campagne. Elle a non seulement parlé de ce soutien, mais elle a aussi parlé des difficultés techniques quant à tout le matériel qu'il fallait encore réunir pour tout ce processus-là. Donc, pour elle, euh, il est important de ne pas baisser le bras, de toujours éveiller cette conscience-là pour, en ce qui concerne les mentalités. Surtout, elle a évoqué le fait que actuellement même au Libéria, il est encore évoqué dans d'autres, par d'autres hommes, si on va le dire, le fait que une femme a été présidente, il va falloir encore 50 ans pour qu'une autre femme soit présidente. Bon, pour elle, c'est des mentalités qu'on doit pouvoir changer dans le tissu politique. Donc voici, pêle-mêle, elle nous appelle à être encouragés, surtout hein, en ce qui concerne ces différents challenges dans, on va dire, dans le processus électoral et dans le Sénat, le Parlement, on va dire tout simplement dans les institutions politiques dans nos pays. Elle a terminé son discours en encourageant tout le monde parce que notamment les organisateurs de cette initiative, cette célébration de ce que c'est une belle opportunité pour que les femmes soient aussi entendues. Merci.
Hi, Honorable Yasin. Are you still here with us?
Yes, James, what?
Okay, he's done. Please, we already hearing you.
Can you hear me, James?
Yes, please, you're audible.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna call upon Jamila Bia Ibrahim. She raised her hand. I think she has something to say before we move on to the question answer session. Honorable Jamila Bia Ibrahim, over to you.
Thank you very much, Yasin. Good afternoon once again. I would like to duly recognize the Honorable Minister of Youth and Sports Development of Liberia. My most sincere apologies, Honorable Minister. I didn't realize you were online with us. Honorable Honorable Cornelia Wankale Kua. Honorable Minister, I'm really proud of what you have achieved, and you are a fierce politician yourself. And I wish you the very best. And we hope to hear the news in the next couple of years that we have a second democratically elected female president in your person in Liberia, because it's quite impressive what you're doing, going to the rural areas and making all that impact. You are taking up space and making impact. I would like to also appreciate the interim chairman of West African Youth Assembly WAYA, Honorable Abdulkadir Junaidu. Yeah. So, yes, in the correct order now, I'd like to say good morning to Honorable Warren Sar, chairperson of the occasion, former president of ECOFEPA, and Honorable Veronica Sise, member Sierra Leone Parliament and former president of ECOFEPA, and Barrister Oluwatosin Ungue, president ECOWAS Community Court of Justice Female Forum, and the chairperson, interim chairman of WAYA, my own brother from Nigeria, Junaidu Abdulkadir, and Not to go unrecognized also is Honorable Yasin India Sea Bao. I hope I have pronounced your name correctly. Please pardon me for the pronunciations. They say that honor is due to whom, or you give to honor to whom it is due. And Yasin and Abdulkader, I would like to commend your efforts in putting this program together, and along with your other colleagues. I know how much you have had to reach out, even though I've been on the move in the last couple of weeks. I congratulate you on being great ambassadors of young people, and I wish you the very best in all your endeavors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Jamila. You are already a honorable figure, honoring other figures. This is a sign of humility and a sign of high recognition. Thank you very much for these nice words. And let us just move into a brief question and response segment. The questions have been gathered from our participants, and I will be directing two to each of our distinguished speakers. In the interest of time, I kindly ask that responses be kept to about 5 minutes. First of all, Ms. Olwatusin Ingowa, let me begin with you. Two of the questions coming from our participants are these. In what ways does economic empowerment serve as a prerequisite for women's political leadership? This is the first question. Second, how effective have youth empowerment initiatives been in addressing the gender gap? And what lessons can be applied to scale women's leadership in climate and energy sectors? We'd love to hear from your perspective. Over to you, Honorable Ms. Olwatu Sinengoa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yasin, for these questions. I thank the organizers and the participants for these questions. And I'd also like to join my voice with Dr. Jamila Ibrahim to say good afternoon once again to everybody, especially the Minister of Youth and Sports of Liberia and Barrister Cornelia Wonkeria Krua. I hope I've not murdered the name. Apologies for that. And to every other person who joined us later in the event. I am very happy to be here and to be given this opportunity to speak with you in this program. So let me move to the question quickly. In what ways does economic empowerment serve as a prerequisite for women's political leadership? You know, as I've mentioned before during my presentation, economic empowerment is very important. And the other speakers have also said almost the same thing. The minister, for example, she said, women need technical and financial support. This is very, very important because without money, it is difficult to move things ahead. You need money for campaigns. You need money for to move around the country, for example, to campaign for your to your constituents. So it is very important. It is like a foundation. You know, it's a foundation that is needed to participate, to compete, and to influence effectively. This is because when a woman has empowerment, economic empowerment, she is independent and she's confident. She can confidently make decisions with her own income and resources. She's more likely to speak up. She's more likely to engage in public life and consider running for office. Secondly, it enables her to have access, like I said before, access. She can campaign, she can network, she can mobilize support for herself, and she can, support anything that requires funding. Without economic means, many capable women have been locked out of the process. And thirdly, it builds credibility and visibility. When women are economically active, whether as entrepreneurs, professionals, and so on, they are likely to gain community recognition, because usually when women have economic empowerment, they touch their community in one way or the other. You see them giving things out during festivals, maybe Christmas time, you share rice, you share different things to people, and people come to her for help. Oh, my child is ill, my child needs to go to school, things like that. The people are able to come to her. So when she comes to say, okay, I want to campaign, or I'm interested in an elective position, people see her as a legitimate person who they can depend on for depend on as a leader. Finally, it also increases her decision-making power. When a woman has economic empowerment, she is able to influence decisions in the home and in the society. So, in conclusion for this question, without economic power, political leadership remains inaccessible. But with it, women gain tools, voice, and a platform to lead. On the second question, which has to do with how effective have youth empowerment initiatives been in addressing the gender gap, and what lessons can be applied to scale women's leadership in climate and energy sectors? We have a lot of youth empowerment initiatives. Even the ECOWAS Youth and Sports Development Center, like which provides capacity building in the area of youth and sports. Then we have so many other initiatives. All these, some of them build young leaders in governance. Some of them equip the youth and women with entrepreneurial and leadership skills. They have been effective. However, they need to go beyond that, because there are issues of structural barriers, the structural barriers and limited access to finance has been an issue. It is one thing for you to empower, it's another thing for you to have the opportunities. There needs to be a link between these empowerment programs and the opportunity, and providing opportunity and providing systems to enable women to get into these sectors. So to scale up women's leadership in climate and energy sectors, there is a need to align the skills training with real opportunities in green and energy jobs. There is also a need to provide access to finance and mentorship so that women can lead, not just participate. And then there has to be intentionality to include women in decision-making spaces, not just as beneficiaries. The mindset has to be shifted. People's mindset have to change, that women are the mindset that women are not supposed to be leaders should change. And these will address structural barriers and social norms and access to resources. So in simple terms, we need to shift from training to positioning them, from training women to actually positioning them to lead. So I hope this answers your question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Barrister Oluwatosin, for those insightful and well-articulated responses. We truly appreciate your expertise and the clarity of you've brought to these important discussions. Honorable Jamila, let me bring you in here. Participants are also curious about how can we dismantle entrenched patriarchal structures and amplify women's authentic voices to ensure their leadership not only occupies decision-making spaces, but fundamentally transforms political and institutional outcomes for equitable progress. Next question. What bold intersectional strategies can West African nations deploy to shatter barriers from cultural norms to legal loopholes empowering women to lead with an apologetic authority in governance, climate policy, and youth driven reforms. May we have your thoughts? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question, Yasin. Um, I will, since I have 5 minutes, I will just address. I will address both concurrently. I hope that's okay. Hello.
Yes, it's okay. Yes.
Okay. Yes, but in my response, I will highlight where I'm responding to the second question. So this is responding to the first question now, dismantling entrenched patriarchy, especially for us in West Africa. This requires more than inserting women into existing systems. It means redesigning power itself. Basically, we have to now say we have to establish who defines the priorities and how these decisions are financed and whose knowledge counts at the table and how accountability works. So evidence across the continent shows that numerical representation alone is insufficient. So transformation comes when our institutions, norms, our resources are restructured around equity and inclusion. So that brings us to gender sensitive budgeting and all of that. And here's also like we must, first of all, we must have a shift from just representation now to redistribution of power. So quotas and parity laws all matter a great deal, but they only are a starting point if we must dismantle patriarchy. So countries like Senegal, like I said previously, have shown that legal quotas can rapidly increase women's presence, but deeper reforms are needed to translate presence into greater influence. So reforming our political financial systems now, we must cap campaign costs. So we must ensure that we put a cap on how much must be spent in every campaign. Otherwise, if we spend beyond a certain cap, then it becomes an economic and financial crime. So that is one, because women and young people do not have the financial capabilities to spend. They don't have that spending power to invest in it or to spend in campaigns like the men who have long over the years dominated the political space. So it has to be an equitable platform, basically, and we must create that platform. We must cap basically in like, because I'm trying to beat the time. So we must cap campaign spendings, and we should ensure that we create public funding pools for women and young candidates. Then we must institutionalize gender responsive budgeting, like I said. So policies prioritize policy priorities will reflect lived realities. And there's also a very, I think the elephant in the room that we hardly ever talk about is the care economy and informal labor, and of course, addressing climate vulnerabilities. Women are mostly the at the receiving end of the care economy of unpaid labor and all of that. So if we are able to invest in the care economy as a political infrastructure, one of the biggest invisible barriers of care work is care work. So redistribution of care responsibilities is central to unlocking women's leadership potentials. So policies such as public child care systems, paid parental leave for all genders now, both male and female, and then of course social protection for informal caregivers. So, and who are the informal caregivers? Majorly women. So there has to be like a real shift now. So women don't just enter political systems, they reshape what counts as a policy priority. So we must also ensure that we attack patriarchal norms at the root. Because patriarchy in West Africa, we shouldn't attack just the symptoms of patriarchy now. We must attack the roots of patriarchy. So patriarchy in West Africa is sustained by social norms, just as our laws are sustained by social norms. So nearly half of the women in West Africa still internalize norms justifying violence and showing how deeply embedded inequality is. So reforms must combine legal enforcement against gender-based violence and discrimination, then norm change campaigns led by traditional religious young leaders and leaders of thought, and then, of course, the educational systems. That means from childhood now, from early childhood, we must normalize a woman's authority. So we must begin to teach the boys and the girls alike to normalize seeing women in authority and not to see them as the second class counterparts. So without cultural disruptions such as this, then legal reforms remain just a symbol. So women-led ecosystems also build women leaders, basically. So we need to build women-led ecosystems, not just allow women to be leaders as in isolation. So in essence, individual success stories don't scale, but networks do. So we must create networks that will, support women, mentor women, and enable them to participate actively in politics. So regional platforms like policy forums and women's coalitions have proven effective in amplifying collective voices and influencing governance agendas. Then we must invest in cross-border feminist policy networks. I mean, I must appreciate and commend the ECOWAS, especially through the Gender Development Center, for all the work they've been doing, the mentorship they've initiated for young women, and of course, we must also have women's political mentorship pipelines and shared legal defense and campaign infrastructure. Then we must also leverage on continental frameworks. Not only leverage on continental frameworks now, we must enforce them locally. So Africa already has strong gender frameworks, and implementation is the gap. So instruments like the AU's gender equality strategy emphasizes financing, accountability, and voice amplification. So the problem now is weak domestication and enforcement as national scale. So now the strategy would be to tie gender commitments to budget allocations and performance metrics, and then use regional peer pressure like the AU, the ECOWAS, through the ECOFEPA, and of course the ECOWAS Gender Development Center. And there's also an interesting, during the course of my research on this topic, I came across the ECOWAS Gender Barometer and Index, which is also a very valuable tool to enforce compliance when it comes to gender inclusion. And we should also consider sanctioning political parties, because they act as gatekeepers that hinder women from participating fully in politics. So if they do not meet the quotas for inclusion of women in politics, then these political parties should be held accountable and should be sanctioned. So I think the last point would be the anchoring women in climate governance and green transitions. So climate policy is a major opportunity for power redistribution. So women are already leading in grassroots climate solutions, but it's still the women at the grassroots are still at a disadvantage, because it's more of an urban woman thing, and we need to make bold moves such as mandating gender parity in climate negotiation teams, and to also ensure that the women at the grassroots are actively involved. So to channel climate finance directly to women-led local initiatives is one bold move that we can make. And to recognize, this is addressing the second question now, my dear listeners. So, and to recognize that unpaid environmental labor has to be accounted for nationally, not just within the homes or within the local communities. No, we have to make sure that countries recognize unpaid environmental labor and make count, take accountability for these efforts that are made at the local level. So I wouldn't want to bore us too much, but my final point will be also amplifying, digitally amplifying women's voices and protecting them, because now we've seen a trend of digital gender-based violence has now taken a digital form. So the digital space is both a tool and a battleground for women in politics or in leadership. So closing the gender digital divide is essential for political participation and influence for women. And we must also invest in digital literacy and media ownership for women, protection against online harassment, and platforms that elevate grassroots voices into policy making. We must begin to consider making legislations to protect women against digital harassment. I know that countries like South Africa also they've passed the law on content takedown when it comes to social media harassment. And I believe that the West African sub-region can also, I mean, the ECOWAS can consider this legislation. I'm glad that Barrister Tosin is here, and I hope that God will give you the grace to be able to take it up at the regional level. And I thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to you. And I wish you the very best in all your endeavors. And I hope that by the time we gather here again, we will be talking about progressive figures now and greater success, bigger success stories, sustained success stories, rather. I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Jamila Bio Ibrahim, for your thoughtful and engaging responses. Your contributions have added value, a great value to this session, and we sincerely appreciate your perspective. Please join me in giving a warm round of applause to Attorney Cornelia Wonkerle Krua, Honorable Oluwatu Sinengowa, and Honorable Jamila for their outstanding contributions and engaging interventions. Can you do that, please? Can you send your hearts? Can you send your stickers, your congratulations to these brilliant and outstanding women, please? Yes, I want to see hearts everywhere. Crowding this platform, crowd your this platform with hearts. Thank you once again to our distinguished speakers for their invaluable contributions. Thank you very much. I'm just gonna call back Dokone for the French summary, a quick French summary of these answers offered by Honorable Jamila Bia Ibrahim and Ms. Olwatu Sinengoa. Dokone, you can go ahead.
Merci une fois de plus, Madame Yacine, pour votre modération très brillante. Il faut dire que la première question était orientée sur la contribution économique quant à la représentativité de la femme. Madame Oluwatosin a répondu en disant que le pouvoir économique est le fondement parce que cela permet de créer de la confidence, de l'indépendance et même le succès, comme Madame la ministre nous a instruit en disant que il faut que les femmes aient accès, on va dire, au fonds et qu'elles aient un soutien. Et sans, on va dire, le volet économique, alors pour la femme, elles seront donc verrouillées sur le plan financier. C'est donc le pouvoir économique qui leur permettra ou qui ouvre les portes de sorte que elles aient non seulement le soutien, mais qu'elles aussi soient impliquées. La deuxième question était orientée sur le changement que cela pourrait apporter. Moi, j'ai noté que au niveau de Madame, dans ses réponses, elle a insisté sur le fait qu'il faut un changement de mentalité. Il faut passer donc de la formation à l'intégration. pour que ces femmes-là qui sont formées à l'image de nos pionnières qui, elles, ont contribué notamment dans le domaine de la science, il faut que aujourd'hui, ces femmes-là aussi qui reçoivent la formation, qu'on puisse déjà passer de cette étape de formation et maintenant à l'étape de l'intégration de la femme. Quant aux réponses données aux questions de Madame Dr. Jamila Ibrahim, qui nous a instruit d'abord sur le renforcement. Pour elle, il faut aller à la source, il faut aller à la source, à la racine même, pour que nous nous puissions avoir un total renforcement, surtout au niveau local, quant à l'inclusion de la femme. Pour elle, sur la deuxième question, comme élément de réponse, c'est renforcer la protection on va dire, du droit de la femme ou de la femme tout simplement au niveau de la législation au niveau à travers les lois qui sont votées, qui sont légitimées et que cela soit de manière effective. Elle a beaucoup insisté sur ces éléments parce que pour elle, il faut que euh, le droit de la femme, surtout en donnant le cas de l'Afrique du Sud, qui est déjà en avance sur ce plan-là, elle invite donc tous les autres pays, on va dire, à s'impliquer dans ce processus pour que la femme soit aussi toute protégée. Donc, voici ces réponses que nous avons eues de la part de nos présentatrices par rapport aux questions qui leur ont été posées. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Docteur Do. Merci. À présent, j'ai l'insigne honneur d'inviter la présidente de cette occasion, une femme d'exception, une leader visionnaire et engagée. Honorable Waressar, ancienne présidente d'ECOFEPA, sur son leadership remarquable, elle a marqué l'histoire en initiant en 2023 une mobilisation sans précédent réunissant les femmes et la jeunesse ouest-africaine au siège de la CEDEAO à Abuja, impactant ainsi plus de 250 jeunes leaders à travers un programme transformateur. Mama Waré, une femme battante, une source d'inspiration, une véritable figure de leadership féminin en Afrique de l'Ouest. Boy, nous vous donnons respectueusement la parole. Merci beaucoup. James, Honorable
Hi.
James. Okay. Can you unmute Honorable Warisa, please?
Um, yeah, I'm trying to search her on the list. I'm not seeing the name. Did she join with a different name or a device name, kind of? Hi, Yasin. Please, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you. Let me just verify something and come back to you.
Yes.
Maman Waré, Honorable Waressar, si vous nous entendez, Pouvez-vous nous faire l'honneur de lever votre main pour que nous puissions vous identifier, s'il vous plaît? Est-ce que Maman Auré nous entend? Oui, je pense. Okay, so let's continue with calling Mansata Monica Barbosa Silla. Mansata, are you here to read us the statement of commitment, please? Mansata?
Mansetta, let me see. Mansetta, I can see that here.
You don't see her?
Yeah. But if she can just raise her hand, that
Yeah.
make it also easier.
Okay, Mansata, if you can hear us, please raise your hand.
Okay. WAYA getting it. Okay, good. So a request has been sent. Please accept it.
Okay, yes, Mansata, if you see the request, you can accept it.
Hello.
Okay, thank you, Mansata. Okay.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Could you hear me? Yasin?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Firstly, I would like to say thank you for each speaker that share their contribution, their point of views about the different point that we discussed here. It is so important for us, like on West Africa. And now I would like to share the statement of convenience. Okay. Can we start?
Yes, you can start.
Okay. Advancing women building the future. As we celebrate this woman, we also have to be honest about the reality many women and girls still face across West Africa. Issues like feminicide, rape, incest, and the burden of unshared parenting are still present. The economic gap is still real. Too many women are working hard but still looked out of opportunity, research, and decision making space. This is why our commitment matters. We are committed to advancing the new generation of women in economic development because if women do not have equal economic power, inequality will continue. Closing the economic gender gap is not optional. It is necessary if we want real change. Across countries, whether in Senegal, Nigeria, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Benin, Niger, the Gambia, Guinea, Togo, Burkina Faso, Mali, Ghana, Cape Verde, Cote d'Ivoire, or Guinea-Bissau. The goal is the same: a society where women are safe, supported, and able to move forward without barrier. We want a future where girls grow up with real options, where women are not just included but are leading, where their work is valued, their voice are heard, and their rights are protected. So today, it is not just about recognition, it is also about responsibility. We are celebrating this woman, but we also commit to continuing the work, to building systems that support women, to creating opportunities and to making sure the next generation does not have to fight the same battles. That is the West Africa we are working toward. Okay?
Mansara,
Yes, Yasin.
thank you very much once again. Thank you very much for this brilliant statement of celebration. Mansara is a brilliant lady doing an excellent job in her country, Guinea-Bissau, and in the West Africa Youth Assembly. She was reading their statement of commitment. So thank you very much, sister. Now we move to the next session. This session will be moderated by an outstanding and dynamic young leader, Honorable Isambub, an accomplished bilingual professional, a proud Senegalese and a global citizen based in Germany. Her unique transnational perspective bridges grassroots realities with global leadership conversations. Honorable Isambub, the floor is yours.
Is it sorry to confirm, is it so?
Isambub, you can unmute her. I'm sending you her name.
Okay, just give me a second.
Yes. Okay.
I saw, got it. So, okay, thank you.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. Hello.
Yes, please. You're very loud and clear.
All right. Thank you so much, dear colleague, Honorable
You
Yasin.
can go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much, dear colleagues, Honorable Yasin and Honorable